Technicals is a YouTuber who is known for doing the impossible, uncancelling the cancelled, and turning the community's anger back towards the real perpetrators. For a channel with only 80,000 subscribers, he has a reputation and influence far beyond what his modestly sized fanbase would suggest. His work has been praised by many, and he single-handedly rebuilt the careers of some of the most publicly detested creators in Smash. But what if the person he was defending was actually guilty? What if Technicals was so blinded by his own ego that he vindicated someone who was rightfully shunned? What if he let his personal grievances impact his work to the point where it is devoid of common sense? And what if this wasn't the first time? Today, I'll be dissecting Technicals' work and the recent drama he's got himself into, exploring his motivations and what made him this way, as well as rightfully exposing the Smash creator known as ZeRo, the one who got away.
This may be a little personal, but I like ZeRo, and if he decides to continue making content, I can't think of a single reason not to. Even after gaining significantly more money and more access to minors, there's been no new cases.
I mean, this is really bad. I mean, 1914, it's indefensible.
I just want to stress that I don't think ZeRo is a pedophile.
You're making it real hard to believe you. Before he was canceled, he even ran an entire team of children.
Are you saying that you can do a pedophilic action but not be a pedophile?
Yes.
Okay.
He hasn't had a slip-up in 7 years.
Why do you call it a slip-up? Where is he slipping up from?
Slipping up means getting caught in the act.
Getting caught in what act? What do you think he is?
Red-handed.
Red-handed
This is just
doing what,
verbiage.
Technicals?
Maybe you're just...
Tech's brother got busted in a group chat Tech owned, where Tech's brother would post nude images of himself and lolicon that he had allegedly drawn as well.
Technicals, did your brother post his dick in this chat with minors?
Yes. Read for yourself, ask the right questions, and who knows? Maybe you too can be a detective.
Oh, okay. Let's set the scene. Technicals is a YouTuber primarily known for his thorough investigations into the controversies of the Smash community. He's created many long videos dissecting, exposing, and exonerating people in the Smash scene who so supremely deserve it. In fact, he's a creator that I've worked with in the past. I made the intro for his fantastic video on the Sky House, as well as the title card for the video that we're going to talk about today. I always considered his work to be one of the best, and undoubtedly the next one in commentary to make it big. Even though I knew absolutely nothing about Smash, his videos were always incredibly engaging and kept me hooked the whole way through. To be honest, I considered him to be the last one to go off the edge and start saying some insane stuff. He always seemed super level-headed and sensible. But everything I once believed got flipped on its head on the 17th of November, when he dropped his video titled, "What Really Happened to ZeRo?"
Today officially marks the beginning and end of an era in Smash history. In the past year, we've seen a growth in distrust of leadership, entire cases turned upside down, and a once silent majority no longer afraid to question the status quo. I mean, why shouldn't they? The loudest ones are the reason both you and I are here in the first place. But as I said before, that ends today. Because today I'll show you how two of the biggest cases in Smash history have never been solved. Until now.
In July 2020, serious allegations were brought to light that threatened the reputation of one of the Smash community's biggest titans. They focused around ZeRo, a Smash YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers. ZeRo had built a reputation over the previous 15 years of being one of the greatest Super Smash Bros. Players in the world, setting a world record of 56 consecutive tournament wins from November 2014 to October 2015. There seemed to be no stopping ZeRo and his continual success, so the community was rightfully taken by shock when Jisoo, a rather large player in the Smash scene, started to make some rather severe accusations against ZeRo. The community, of course, ate them up without much thought, as they always do. And that's when Technicals comes in. Technicals' past investigations have always been made with the intention of rebuilding a subject's reputation online and include a public call to action pressuring the Smash community to apologize or welcome people back. What happened to ZeRo is no exception. The first 13 minutes of the video is exactly what I would expect a good Technicals video to contain. Tech breaks down 5 separate false allegations against ZeRo and solidifies that Jisoo is still human garbage. There was certainly a severe amount of misinformation and exaggeration when people came out against ZeRo, and Tech was able to skillfully make sense of it all and rightfully blast people who messed it up. But after we reach the 13-minute mark, the mood changes pretty drastically.
This, in my opinion, is probably the only serious and legitimate problem that people have with ZeRo. Everything else is either fabricated, as we've seen, or extremely, and I mean extremely, over-exaggerated, which is honestly a testament to just how clean ZeRo's record is if they have to lie this much.
Spoiler alert, ZeRo's record is not clean at all. Not in the slightest, actually. Technicals begins to recount the allegation levied against ZeRo by Katie, an active viewer of ZeRo in 2014. They began chatting on Skype when ZeRo was 19 and Katie was 14. These messages consist of nothing short of ZeRo grooming this young viewer who looked up to him. Surprisingly, Technicals' video does not include a reading of the messages or do Katie's story justice at all, highlighting only 10% of Katie's 1,300-word tweet longer, so 90% of the context is missing. It was at this point that I realized that Technicals was trying to build a narrative.
Obviously, I'm talking about it because it's a narrative. Every video that talks about shit like this is a narrative, obviously.
Since Tech omitted pretty much all of Katie's tweet longer, I say we explore some of the missing sections to gain a better understanding of the case at hand.
Dear ZeRo, my name is Katie. I used to be in the Smash community. I was 14 years old during our conversations on Skype from September 2014 to January 2015. We met online when you were streaming on Twitch, and I messaged you over chat. You seemed to take an interest in me and gave me your Skype username. I, starstruck, made a Skype just for this and began chatting with you. I'll note that I was decently educated when it came to internet safety, but it mainly regarded things like don't message a stranger and whatnot. But you weren't a stranger. You were ZeRo, a top player. You won the E3 Invitational and several tournaments before. Having any attention from someone like you was mind-blowing to me. That's what made me an easy target. I was a young girl enraptured with the idea of being friends with someone I looked up to and admired. You used me in this state to flirt, manipulate, and ask for sexual favors from me. To remind you, this is what happened in our conversations. You called me kitty, kitten, honey, all mine, while flirting the entire time.
Tell me some more about you. Like, what do I not know about you?
I'm 14, I'm a girl, I'm smart, but I love Smash. Also, do you think that we could video chat one day? Sometime? Not now. You don't have to.
Yeah, sure we could.
Go, ZeRo, go! Imagine me with pom-poms and a cheerleader outfit or something.
Lamau, adorable.
Thanks. Wait, you, the legendary ZeRo, just called me adorable?
Yeah, you're an adorable cutie.
Thanks.
So adorable.
No, seriously, this is like a big deal for me. You're like one of my role models / favorite persons. Just, I'm your official adorable cheerleader. Seriously, I'm blushing so hard right now.
Adorable cutie.
Oh, be quiet.
But you loving it. Can't lie to me.
Yeah, I am.
Lol, you are so adorable. OMG, too much.
Stop.
Kitty cat Katie.
Seizure.
You're going crazy for me. You just love it. You're loving it, girl. So loving.
You manipulated me. For example, you called me a pervert and made me believe it when in reality I was being goaded to say things by you.
Kate, you a perv though. It's okay. You growing up. It's gonna happen. You are still a baby.
You also told me I was your secret, and so I couldn't tell anyone about our conversations. Do your viewers know why you're probably falling off your seat right now?
No, you're my secret.
What? I'm your secret? The fuzz does that mean?
You're such a cutie. Mad adorable girl. Yeah, no one knows what we're doing.
Wait, what? I'm your adorable girl. That's really creepy, but also really cute. I mean, what?
You call it creepy, but you love it. You're like, I hate you, but love this and this.
No.
Yes.
I will never admit it.
You're loving it. Predictable. I just know it.
I won't admit it, ever.
Yes.
Never. ZeRo, please. The worst offense I can remember is that you asked me to masturbate with ice and take pictures. I lied when I told you I masturbated as you asked, and then I declined sending you pictures. The worst part of all of this is that I did not take screenshots of this particular situation since I was so embarrassed by it. You wanted to make this activity a habit, that every 2 weeks I would do what you say for a day.
I promise I'll be normal. If every 2 weeks we could do something like that, or in that day, I could go all in.
Swear on the river Styx?
Jason, I promise you. As long as you promise me that those days, you are all mine.
Fine. Here's why I never came out about this. I blamed myself. I admit that I was extremely enthusiastic in our conversations because I was just enamored with the fact that I was talking with the top player. I idolized you, and you used that to your advantage. But don't take it as, oh my god, ZeRo's so hot. No. Not that kind of love. Well, maybe a little. I mean, what? But I love you like I want to be like you. I mean, I'll be your little cute, adorable kitty that's also your personal cheerleader when you need it. I'd probably do anything for you. Not bad for a 14-year-old girl, huh?
Oh wow, I'm surprised. I had no idea you felt so strong about me. I'm honored. You're adorable and very nice. We could definitely talk more and stuff. I'd like to know you some more.
But because I was so naive, I considered myself responsible for years and thought that my experience would be invalid because of my actions. I didn't take screenshots of the worst situations. The screenshots I have were actually when I was so starstruck that what I thought was happening to me was special, so I kept them for posterity. Only later did I realize that the messages you sent weren't good for me at all.
I love how you react so funny to things. Mad adorable. It's like when you rub a cat's belly, and then they just roll around.
You will not rub my belly.
Yeah, why only do that?
Despite the wave of stories that have been told lately, I believe I will still receive immense backlash. She wants attention. She just doesn't like him. But trust me, I wish this never happened. And I wouldn't wish this amount of mental stress on anyone as well. These months of my life have haunted me for years. Ever since we stopped talking, it's been in the back of my mind. Whenever I saw a video of you, or saw you talking to other top players I admired, or saw a fan talk about how great of a person you were, I would feel sick to my stomach. And this feeling has been growing even stronger these past few days, telling me that I have to say something, that I have to speak up to end this conflict. All I want now is closure, a genuine apology. I was a kid back then. I was stupid. But you are an adult, and you should have taken responsibility and said no. You never should have encouraged any of it.
What grade are you in?
9th, so I'm a freshman.
OMG, you're a baby hand. Haha, adorable. Smash skills don't matter, kitty. You'll grow out of it eventually.
I'm now an adult, as old as you were when we first talked, and I could not imagine ever talking to a minor the way you talked to me. You knew what we were doing was unacceptable, and you should have stopped it way earlier than we did. I realize that you have the power to reject everything I accuse you of that I don't have evidence for. I understand that this was 5 years ago and that you have very likely matured and changed since it happened, but I want you to realize the effect you've had on me. I've grown as a person too, but I've had this burden on my heart for years, and I want to let it go. I will very likely never return to the Smash community, in part because of what happened between us, but I want to close the book on this situation for good. Signed, Katie.
If we assume that all of what Katie says is true, this is disgusting. Remember, ZeRo is 19 and he is aware that the girl he is engaging with is 14. I think the word grooming has somewhat lost its meaning over the past year or two due to the label being attributed to cases that don't really justify it. But let's make this very, very clear. This is textbook grooming, and it's repulsive. In fact, I'm pretty comfortable saying that based on this, ZeRo should not be allowed back in any online setting where you would have the ability to interact with minors on a daily basis. This is pretty standard in nearly every other profession that involves children. If you're a teacher and you get caught grooming a student, you are removed from your position and not allowed to work as a teacher going forward. The same goes if you're a counselor, coach, or tutor. From just looking at the screenshots Katie provides, myself, the level of precision and research that would have been needed in order to make these would have been next level. But thankfully, we don't have to do forensics on the screenshots to judge the validity of the allegations, because ZeRo actually confessed, and he went one step further and confessed to stuff we didn't have screenshots for.
Hey, I can't sleep, and I just can't take this back and forth. I don't think it makes sense to keep this going. I just want this all to stop and for me to at least atone. I also want people to stop defending me. I don't deserve it. Katie, the screenshot you guys were wondering about the ice cube thing? It's true. The claims that Katie makes are true in general. There are no graphic pictures or anything of the sort, but it's unforgivable regardless.
Okay, pack it up guys. Case closed. We have a confession. This was probably the stance of most people prior to Technical's video. If you have a confession to inappropriate conversation with minors, that's game over for you in the online space. But what Technicals does next is completely out of left field. In fact, the first time I watched it, I admittedly couldn't contain my laughter. Just roll the clip.
If you're an observant reader, you may have noticed the stark contrast of tone from his previous responses. That's because ZeRo wholeheartedly intended for this to be his suicide note. And had it not been for Vanessa, that may have well been the case. If it's not too personal, what stopped you from committing suicide?
Technicals spends the next 3 minutes interviewing ZeRo and Vanessa, recanting details about ZeRo's graphic suicide story. This entire section completely took me by surprise, and I can see it served no other purpose than to emotionally manipulate the audience to feel bad for ZeRo. We've just spent the last 2.5 minutes going over claims that he asked a 14-year-old girl for nudes when he was 19, and then we spend an entire 3 minutes where he has the opportunity to speak about his darkest moment. The manipulation becomes even more blatant when after 3 minutes of pulling at your heartstrings with this part of the story, Technicals just jumps right back into the allegations. Here he glosses over the messages and broadly calls them
100% unacceptable,
and then delves into the legal argument that no one with any notable platform has ever made, at least not to my knowledge. I can only assume this because the tweets he shows to transition into this section have no likes and 3 likes, respectively. If any big names were making these arguments, or if this was even the consensus in general, don't you think he would have pulled some more popular tweets? I don't buy it. Everyone is aware that the police are notoriously terrible at prosecuting online crimes, especially when there isn't explicit material involved. Technicals knows this too. By debunking an argument that no one was making in the first place, Tech is priming the audience to accept his version of the story. It's all about building a narrative.
Obviously, I'm talking about it because it's a narrative. Every video that talks about shit like this is a narrative, obviously.
And that becomes even more apparent in the next section of the video.
Now, the million-dollar question is ZeRo a pedophile? Now, I know that this is a very emotionally charged subject, and some of you have probably already made up your minds. But when it comes to a label that would suggest past, present, future, and potential harm of children, I think it's important to make sure that the shoe fits nice and snug.
This definition is so specific and has such a high bar that it cannot be reasonably applied to most people the society would be pretty comfortable with calling pedophiles. You have to remember that most pedophiles never offend, and that pedophilia is simply defined as sexual feelings directed towards children. Twitter pedophiles have even coined a phrase for this, NOMAP, which stands for non-offending minor attracted person. You would probably call these people pedophiles, and you would be completely justified in doing so. But under Technical's definition, they wouldn't qualify because they themselves have stated that they will not and have not harmed or abused children. When you arbitrarily raise the bar for definitions like this, it starts to have unintended side effects. For example, should a YouTuber with a child fan base that has admitted to being a non-offending pedophile be allowed to create content for children? Absolutely not. And the same goes for any other profession that involves children. But Tech's definition allows these people to weasel out on a technicality, and it becomes even more confusing as the video progresses.
For instance, let's take someone who more than likely could be categorized as a pedophile, EDP445. EDP had messaged multiple underage girls, and despite almost getting caught one time, still ends up in a sting operation with a 13-year-old. People who are pedophiles like children. Repeat offenders literally cannot help themselves. It's classified in the DSM-5 as a paraphilic disorder, which means that they have persistent sexual urges or fantasies about children and act on them, or it causes them extreme distress or difficulty in their interpersonal relationships.
In this part of the video, Technicals completely misrepresents the DSM-5. I can't tell if this is due to pure ignorance or him trying to build a narrative, but I'll let you decide. In response to the question of, is ZeRo a pedophile, he references pedophilic disorder and reads out the qualifiers. But the only problem with this is that pedophilia and pedophilic disorder are two very different things. In fact, the DSM-5 actually makes the distinction in 6 different places. In the new DSM-5, pedophilia is depathologized by differentiating between the sexual preference for prepubescent children and the disorder in case of additional factors. These factors include experiencing significant distress and impairment by fantasies and urges, or the acting out on behavioral level, including CP consumption and or committing hands-on child sexual abuse offenses. Clinically, this is an important distinction, because a high percentage of pedophiles do not act on their sexual urges, and 40 to 50% of sex offenders that have engaged in sexual contact with children have equal or higher sexual arousal with adults. But of course, Technicals either admitted this information or he just didn't read it. And you should probably do that if you're trying to make the argument that ZeRo is not a pedophile.
Right, your goal is to prove that ZeRo is not a pedophile, right?
Yes.
Pedophilic disorder has a much higher bar, and thus the qualifiers that he reads out cannot reasonably be applied to ZeRo. There is no clinically accepted definition for pedophilia, it just doesn't exist, so let's remove the DSM-5 for a minute and focus on the definition that is generally agreed upon. Sexual feelings directed towards children. Under this definition, would ZeRo be considered a pedophile? Just to remind you, when he was 19, ZeRo groomed a 14-year-old girl for months and pressured her to send him pictures of her performing sex acts. So, let me repeat myself. Is ZeRo a pedophile? I'm going to let you come to the decision on your own, but needless to say, Technical's complete misrepresentation of the DSM-5 is totally irresponsible and clinically incorrect. It plants seeds in the audience's mind that ZeRo cannot possibly be a pedophile because he doesn't fit the extremely strict qualifiers, when that definition is talking about something completely different.
I want to take the reins here for a second and just ask
Go ahead.
a simple question of each person in this chat. I'm 19 years old, right now. I turned 19 in August, so I'm 19 now. I'm the same age that ZeRo was when this shit happened, okay? If I was caught talking to a 14-year-old girl, asking her to shove ice up her pussy and send me pictures of it, regardless if the girl did it, how would each person in this call feel about that? Augie, how would you feel about that?
You would be a sick fuck, and I would never talk to you again, and I would make that abundantly clear in my public platforms.
Boblax, how would you feel about that?
I'd be confused, mind-fucked, angry.
Would you be willing to talk to me again? Would you be willing to have me back in the community in any way? Would you associate with me in any way?
Probably not.
Edwin?
No, dude, that's gonna be a hard no. I mean, oh, Jesus, no, dude.
Tipster, what do you think?
Oh, God.
I would think that you're a massive fucking degenerate, and I would have no problem burning that.
But is it just degenerate? Is there another word you maybe want to use? If a 19-year-old tries to...
You're a pedophile. You're a
solicit
fucking
images?
pedo.
Okay,
You're a
there we
fucking
go,
pedo. You're
there
attracted
we
to
go.
children. You want children.
So chat, consider that, okay? Consider that. If I, at the current age I am now, talk to a girl, I would be derided, okay? I would be shat on beyond belief, and I would deserve it. I would deserve it, because the idea of me as a 19-year-old talking to a 14-year-old is fucking repulsive. What the fuck do you have in common with a 14-year-old,
Tom,
ZeRo? Tell me. Tell me what
the
you have in
question.
common with that 14-year-old.
The next part of Technical's video serves two purposes. To further build his case why he believes ZeRo is not a pedophile, and to debunk this hyperbolic and stupid tweet made by Leffen. I could think of several ways to cover this tweet, but the angle that Technicals chooses honestly shocked me.
Even after gaining significantly more money and more access to minors, there's been no new cases. Before he was canceled, he even ran an entire team of children. This would be the perfect case study if I've ever seen one. So I reached out to some of Team ZeRo to see what they had to say on the matter. It's my understanding that you guys had like a group chat too. Did you ever get any weird vibes from ZeRo? Did he ever ask you guys to do something you probably weren't comfortable with?
Technicals interviews two of the kids that ZeRo worked with, where they told him that they got no weird vibes from him. I mean, why would they? The relationship was purely business, as Tech himself states.
But no, he's done absolutely nothing weird in the group chat. Like, he's only spoken a few times, and when he would, it was just for getting us to film a video with him.
Oh, okay, so it's more like purely business.
Yeah.
I fail to see how interviewing two boys in a business chat that ZeRo was a part of adds literally anything to Tech's point. And from what we know, guys aren't even his gender of preference.
Right, your goal is to prove that ZeRo is not a pedophile, right?
Yes.
How can you prove that ZeRo is not a pedophile by interviewing people who've been around him and well, he never was weird around me. How does that prove he's not a pedophile? That just proves he didn't molest them.
This is just saying that he's not manipulating the children of the community. because I directly show a quote from Leffen saying that if he wasn't removed, he would still be manipulating children in the community.
I don't want to be a dick, but it's like, oh, you're not a pedophile? Okay, dude. Name every child in the community. We'll interview every single one of them.
Fucking God.
I'm just saying this doesn't add
honestly don't
anything
get
to
what your point is.
Because, all right, so your overall goal is to prove that ZeRo is not a pedophile.
Yes.
Right. How can you accomplish that further by randomly interviewing people who have been like around him?
He literally brought these kids into like the mainstream. He brought them out of fucking being just an average player to top players. So if the assumption is that ZeRo likes kids, ZeRo manipulates children, he takes advantage of them, why isn't he taking advantage of any of the children he was fucking directly working with?
But does that mean he's not a pedophile and manipulating other kids?
Which he obviously showed an interest in because he specifically said, I like them, I'm going to sponsor them to support them so they can grow in the community.
I'm losing brain cells by just watching this. It's completely irrelevant technicals. Hold on though, this next bit of text video, it's just outrageous.
Let me get this straight. He had the Disneyland equivalent of a pedophile's paradise and didn't ride Space Mountain once. Damn, ZeRo's really dropping the ball here.
So what? His whole team was full of dudes. That only proves he isn't a gay smash pedophile, technicals. Who cares?
To which I'd respond, I guess that means you can cross off 90% of his options. You'd think he'd diversify his profile a little bit.
So, instead of responding to a very legitimate point about sexual preference, Tech responds facetiously, saying that essentially, there aren't that many girls for him to groom, so he should be fine. And that he doesn't understand why ZeRo wouldn't just groom some boys as well if he really was the vicious pedophile that he's claimed to be. Look, I get it, it's a joke. But I would expect that after this joke, we actually would get a legitimate response to this very fair question. But we just don't. He moves right on to the next point. You heard the argument he had with Nick. He doesn't really have an answer to this question, which is why he deflected with jokes, hoping nobody would notice.
Let's just recap. It would be impossible for ZeRo to go to jail over this. He never exchanged any images. Every other story involves an adult, and he hasn't had a slip-up in 7 years.
Yeah, dude, he just kind of tripped and fell and groomed a minor for like 3 months and asked her to shove ice up her pussy. Not my idea of what a slip-up is. And what exactly is he slipping up from? Slipping up from being attracted to minors? This explanation just makes no sense, man. And saying that no images were exchanged is just poisoning the well. He asked for them. It doesn't matter if the girl sent them or not. The intent was still there. Now, to Tech's credit here, he does clearly disavow the conversations in the following section.
Do I condone the conversations that took place? No, and I hope I've made that very clear.
But come on, let's not beat around the bush here. He did not make this clear, at all.
What I'm trying to say is that I don't believe this to be the result of a specific or malicious preference, as is the case with repeat offenders such as pedophiles and Discord mods. What I think we're looking at is a culmination of a fucked up childhood and trauma, resulting in emotional immaturity and a lack of genuine and fulfilling relationships. When ZeRo first publicly shared a story of how he grew up in Chile, we discovered how his father exposed him to sex at the age of 5, and brutally beat him and his mother.
And here we go again with the emotional blackmail. It's insane to me that no one else has called this out. Oh yeah, he might have asked a 14-year-old girl to stick ice up her pussy, but did you know he tried to kill himself? He may have groomed her for months, but did you know how messed up his childhood was? It's just so blatant. Tech doesn't even try to hide it.
I'm not just saying this so you'll pity him.
When you literally just listed all the reasons why you should pity him. This is so bad faith. It's insane.
I'm just saying his circumstances were pretty fucked, and it's not unreasonable to assume that a traumatized, depressed shut-in would have a lack of meaningful and genuine relationship experience.
I wonder how the audience would react if this was said about someone like EDP. Imagine if he went out with a statement that said, "Guys, my father beat me, and I was bullied in school. I haven't had a genuine relationship, so that's why I messaged the 13-year-old for nudes and tried to meet up with her." He'd be laughed at, ridiculed, and told there's no excuse. And rightfully so. None of this excuses ZeRo's behavior. I think I just want to quickly talk about something that has been made abundantly clear to me over the course of Technical's video so far. It's pretty apparent that Tech is making excuses for ZeRo throughout, and very little attention has been spent on the actual allegations themselves. Just to remind you, Katie was groomed for months by a person she looked up to when she was just 14 years old. ZeRo took advantage of her for his own twisted gratification and caused her severe mental distress in the process. The twit longer that we read at the beginning of the video makes me sick to my stomach, and I can't imagine the strength this poor girl had to go through to come out about this abuse of power. Why are we making excuses for this? Why are we trying to minimize it? What ZeRo did is repulsive, plain and simple. But I guess here we are. Sorry for that tangent there, but it just makes me really upset, you know? Like I shouldn't even have to say this right now. The internet's gone completely crazy. Okay, let's get back to the video. The next section is pretty uneventful. Tech interviews some of ZeRo's friends and ZeRo himself to try and give some context as to why he's socially awkward and shouldn't be held to the same standard as the rest of us. Yada, yada, yada. This goes on for 4 minutes. You can watch it yourself. I'm not going to go over it. It's completely irrelevant.
When you look at ZeRo's development over the years, even as recent as his marriage to Vanessa, you'd be hard-pressed to establish any kind of significant behavioral trend, considering how the single instance in 2014 is the only existing point of contention. Now, if that's enough for you to still be against ZeRo and think that he's an irredeemable person, I'd kind of understand where you're coming from. But if what Leffen and Jisoo said is true, you wouldn't need to lie this much to prove it. A pedophile will usually do that themselves.
I'm honestly a bit confused on what he's saying here, because I think there's more than enough to establish guilt while being completely truthful. Is this directed at me? Am I missing something here? Whatever, let's move on.
This may be a little personal, but I like ZeRo, and if he decides to continue making content, I can't think of a single reason not to. If you just thought to yourself, wow, that's a pretty risky and controversial opinion, Technicals, then I'd argue that this opinion is 1,000 times less controversial than what a majority of the Smash community already openly accepts.
Oh, no, he's not going to do what I think he is, right? Tech spends the next 6 minutes discussing Nairo. And to be fair to him, the section is honestly pretty good. This is what he's best at, dissecting responses critically, something that I wish he'd done in his section on Katie. However, this section also serves another purpose, and that is to make ZeRo's case more palatable. Because the Smash community welcomed Nairo back without much reservation due to a legal document that apparently exists that no one has ever seen, he implies that ZeRo should also return, because what he did was apparently not as bad. Because as Technical says,
at least I know for sure what ZeRo did and didn't do. Can't say the same for Nairo.
Finally, we're nearly at the end.
When I first took on this case, I'll be honest, I had quite the few reservations about ZeRo. Some of you might even remember me saying things like, I can't do anything, I'm not a fucking miracle worker. But after thoroughly reviewing the case files, the motivations, the state bylaws, the contradictions, and the traffic violations, I came to where I am now. ZeRo's conversations with Katie were 100% irresponsible and wrong in my opinion. The issue for me is that this isn't something that was caught in the moment. This happened once 7 years ago when he was 19 and then never happened again. The only inference I can reasonably pull from that is that he either realized it was wrong and stopped it himself, or his mental maturity finally caught up with him after years of trauma and a lack of proper education.
I really don't like the way Tech is framing this. By saying that this only happened once, he's negating that the grooming of Katie actually took place over the course of 3 months. If ZeRo messaged her for like a week and stopped, maybe I would believe this a bit more, but he was living and functioning in society as a pro Smash player, and his actions have no excuse. Don't mess me with this, his mental maturity finally caught up with him. Bullshit. I don't buy it. Okay, so why did he stop? Well, there could be so many reasons why. He could have been caught by a friend or family member. Maybe he let it slip out during a conversation. Or maybe he got struck by paranoia from seeing something online. Just because we don't know of this happening again doesn't mean it hasn't. And it doesn't mean that ZeRo should be allowed to post content for children again. I'm personally not comfortable with that at all.
I can't for the life of me point to anything that would correlate him being a current danger to children, like Leffen would suggest. ZeRo never exchanged images with Katie, which is his worst perceived crime to this day.
He asked for them, doesn't matter if he didn't receive any, the intent was still there. How many times do I have to go over this?
Nairo had undeniable sexual activity with a 15-year-old and has still not provided his full defense for his innocence. His attorney says that he could ultimately exonerate him, so why hasn't he? He made it sound really easy. If Nairo feels like his audience isn't owed a detailed explanation, then according to the severity of the allegations, he isn't owed a platform either.
So, my question is, where do we draw the line? If Nairo isn't owed a platform because of the severity of the allegations against him, Why should ZeRo be owned one? Sure, sexual contact with a minor is certainly worse than what ZeRo did. I'm not denying that. But they're both bad, right? If you ask for images but don't receive them, does that make it automatically fine for you to continue making content? The moment you start drawing these arbitrary boundaries, what is and what isn't acceptable starts to become murky. The solution? Both of them should be shunned from the community. Let's stay consistent.
I'm not asking for justice. I'm not even gonna ask you for an apology. You don't have to say anything. So I'll just say the only thing that's left to say. Welcome back, ZeRo.
Why are we welcoming this guy back? Why is everyone okay with defending this dude all of a sudden? Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to think. If you want to support ZeRo in his return, that's fine, go for it. But surely I can't be the only one that thinks this is insane. This dude's clearly depraved. You've seen the messages. This isn't the sort of person we should be welcoming back. In fact, I don't believe he should be allowed to create content for children again. This sort of stuff is like a one-strike policy for me. Imagine this applied to anyone else. No, you see that teacher that asked a minor for nudes? He only did that one time, so he should be allowed to continue teaching at a school. Just doesn't make sense, does it? It's insane to me that people are defending this guy. Tech, come on, man. Why did you get involved in this? Actually, come to think of it, some of you could probably ask me the same question. What's my stake in all this? Why did I spend $20 on these shitty suspenders for this bit? No offense to these people, but I don't think I have anything to gain from trying to win over people from the commentary community again. Those who hate me won't stop from this video, or any video really. Honestly, if I wanted to be in the good graces of anyone right now, it would be Technicals and his crowd. If I was interested in numbers, I'd just join them. He's ratioing commentary creators constantly. He's winning the game of Twitter likes by a whole margin. So why am I doing this? Well, simply, I believe Tech is in the wrong. His video clearly makes excuses for ZeRo, there's no question about it. And he's let his hatred for certain people in the Smash scene take over his common sense and reasoning. Someone needs to come in here and set the record straight. And I decided that that person's gonna be me. I would love to end on that dramatic note, but unfortunately we still have a little to go. I think it's important that we discuss ZeRo's response when he returned. I wanted to put it earlier on in the video, but I couldn't find a place to weave it in nicely, so it's going in here. ZeRo starts off his video by promoting Technicals' work and discussing the document created by Jisoo.
To start off, you probably heard of all of this from a document made by Jisoo, which was then later spread by multiple media outlets. This document contains a very large amount of lies, falsehoods, big exaggerations, and honestly, it is nothing more than a piece to assassinate my character and ruin my image to the general public. There is a lot to go over, but the easiest and best way to learn the truth is to watch these two videos made by Technicals, with one of them actually being released today. Technicals did extensive research for half a year to really dig the truth, interviewed many people, gathered so much evidence, and honestly, he put two pieces together that could explain what really happened better than I could with my own words.
But the most contentious part comes around 2 minutes in when he gets to his confession that I mentioned earlier.
You have also probably heard of a so-called confession from my part. Simply put, this document is nothing more than a suicide letter that I wrote during a tremendous mental breakdown. I had fully planned to take my life right after posting that document because I pretty much lost all faith in that scenario, seeing so many of my close friends deciding to take the situation to throw me under the bus for personal gain, seeing how people were reacting in general, and me just feeling like I could not defend myself properly. Pretty much took the last bit of hope that I had left, and I decided not just to give up, but to sabotage myself on purpose.
What does that even mean? It sounds to me like ZeRo is saying that in his darkest moment, he admitted to stuff that he never did to ensure his career would be completely over. That could not be what it's supposed to mean, but it's so vague that realistically it could mean anything. I sabotage myself. What? Apparently Technicals hasn't received a solid answer from ZeRo on this matter either, but it's up to you whether you want to believe him on that. If we progress on the assumption that ZeRo admitted to stuff he never did to ruin his career intentionally, there are a few things that just don't make sense. The first time we see the twit longer in Technicals' video, he actually alters it to remove around 2/3 of it. The rest of the statement is actually pretty important, so let's have a read of the rest.
Hey, I can't sleep, and I just can't take this back and forth. I don't think it makes sense to keep this going. I just want this all to stop and for me to at least atone. I also want people to stop defending me. I don't deserve it. Katie, the screenshot you guys were wondering about that ice cube thing, it's true. The claims that Katie makes are true in general. There are no graphic pictures of anything of the sort, but it's unforgivable regardless. I want to just be clear about it here. There's more than one girl I spoke to in the 2014 period a bit earlier. Her name is Laura. Originally, she never told me she was underage. She says she was older than me. I have screenshots of this, but it doesn't matter nor make it better. But years later, she contacted me and said she was actually underage. I apologized to her privately recently and told her I feel absolutely terrible about it. There's no graphic pictures or anything either that was exchanged, and she's from another country. I really want to atone, and I just want the discussion to stop.
I don't know if you caught that, but ZeRo actually defends himself in several portions in this TwitLonger. This doesn't sound to me like someone who's trying to intentionally sabotage themselves at all. I simply don't believe someone would be willing to self-destruct / admit to solicitation from a minor and then also defend himself in the next paragraph by explaining he was catfished by Laura, claiming he can prove it, disputing CP, claiming Laura was from another country. Why on earth would you admit to the ice cube thing and then contest other things within the same TwitLonger? This just makes no sense. Even in his confession about Katie, he clarifies that there were no pictures exchanged. I don't buy this excuse that he sabotaged himself. It sounds completely ridiculous. Imagine EDP used that same excuse and said that his confession on video was just him sabotaging himself. No one would take it seriously. Does ZeRo think we're all just gullible?
Now, I need to make this very clear to everybody watching this video. I have never received explicit images from any underage individual. I have never sent explicit images to any underage individual. I have never made travel arrangements with ulterior motives with any underage individual. I have never been touched or touched in any shape or form any underage individual, and I have never had conversations with only the intention to groom an underage individual or take advantage of them. Anything you may have heard or seen that suggests otherwise is a lie.
Did we read the same messages? Because that's what it looked like to me, mate. Talking about messages, Technicals accidentally leaked these ones on stream. It's ZeRo talking about Katie, and shocker, he doesn't sound like he's sorry at all.
Also, this may be huge, but the next challenge is Katie. And the biggest question is still, who is she? And is she really who she says she is? I was thinking, if Jackie gets canceled, or is close to, which is very possible now, we may be able to pressure her hand to get Katie details. I have a great feeling there's manipulation in that story, and Katie herself. And since Katie is a ghost in the wind, we may be able to uncover her. So I'm just saying this could be a play. Jackie's a snake. She will throw Katie under the bus for self-preservation, if she has to. So we could use that.
For everything Katie went through, this just seems like a slap in the face. This guy clearly does not care about the damage he's caused. You know, a question I had while all of this was going down was, why is Technicals batting for this guy so hard? There's no question about it. What ZeRo has done is repulsive. So why is Tech trying to make excuses for him? It was on my mind for a while. At first I thought that he did it all to spite Jisoo, who definitely sucks big time, by the way, but that didn't quite add up to me. Then I thought that he did it because he became friends with ZeRo, but apparently he hasn't known him for that long. So why? This just makes no sense. Well, my answer came from a place I didn't expect it, from the folks on Reddit. This situation involves allegations surrounding Technical's brother. And before anyone has a go at me for going after family members, Tech's brother was a public figure in the Smash scene at the time of these allegations, and has since amassed an audience of nearly 1 million followers on TikTok, over 40,000 YouTube subscribers, and 12,000 Twitch followers. Back in the day, this situation got so big that Tech had to make a public response. Tech still shouts him out publicly and talks him up on podcasts.
The guy in that sketch is my brother. He's also a content creator.
Oh, what's his channel?
Pixel Drink. He's also on TikTok.
Oh,
yeah.
I gotta check that shit out.
He was even at VidCon this year, rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest creators in commentary.
Just to clarify, this is the same guy we met at VidCon?
Yeah. This is definitely fair game. So, with that out of the way, let's progress. Last year, allegations of sexual misconduct were levied against Technical's brother, known online as Turtle SSB or BJ. The allegations stated that in 2016, BJ had sent not safe for work art and nudes of himself to a group chat with the minors in it.
So if you're unaware, Twitlonger was released earlier today about me addressing some things that happened in 2016 when I was 19 years old.
For most people that know BJ, you may know he's a pretty good artist. He would constantly share drawings he's made on his social media into our friend group chat because they were really nice and it's a skill to be proud of. I don't know if it's as well known, but he was also very much into creating NSFW art as well.
So as some of you may know, I like to draw. So back in 2016, I wanted to get better at drawing, so I started drawing NSFW art in an attempt to improve my skills at drawing anatomy. So I did that. I started drawing hentai.
No matter what he drew, I would usually appreciate it simply for what it was because it was so well done, NSFW or not. I remember one night opening Discord and finding out that he made a very graphic drawing of my friend 16 and I 17 having sex. He sent it to our Discord server. To me, this was extremely disturbing and disgusting. I did not consent to this. Plainly said, I felt violated and humiliated by this drawing's existence.
It became a running gag in the group chat that I was in that had people from 13 years old up into, I was the oldest, I was 19. It became a running gag to sort of ship each other together in pairings. So how it started was there was art that was drawn of me with another person in the group chat who was obviously underage. I think I was the only person that was an adult at the time, without my consent. And a couple other images were drawn with similar pairings of other people in the group chat. So then I took it upon myself to join in on the joke that we were all partaking in and drew an image of Albie with another person in the group chat who I will not name.
He was also 19 at the time of making it, which makes it even more disturbing that he made a drawing involving two real-life minors. Remember, not fictional characters. To him and a few others, it was seen as a really funny drawing and they posted it over and over laughing about it, but I remember expressing how uncomfortable I was over it. It is beyond me why he would do this, but he also proceeded to upload this drawing to the Rule 34 website.
Those images don't exist anymore because I deleted them. They were on Rule 34 up until a couple days ago, but then I deleted them because I didn't want them to exist anymore because they're really weird and gross. So I went to go take them down because I haven't looked at it since 2016. Really dumb of me to post it online anyway.
Now I want to address another problem I have with BJ. I don't think there's too much explanation that we'll need to go into these simply because it's all in the screenshots. To give context, there were a few people involved in a group chat in which the majority of the members' ages range from 13 to 16, while BJ himself was 19 at this point, I believe. Here are some messages and screenshots saved from him interacting with them and sending nude images of himself.
So let's move on to the nude pictures that were shared in the chat. In this chat, this group chat that had people from 13 years old to my age, 19 at the time, the conversations would often veer off into like adult topics like porn, sex, etc. Just thinking back on that now, that's like a red flag. I should have removed myself from the chat as soon as conversations started to veer off in that manner. We would often try to like shield the 13-year-old from like those kind of conversations, but they would still happen in the chat. Like there's nothing stopping them from scrolling up and reading it. They would also like make separate group chats amongst themselves, myself not included, where they would share nude photos of themselves with each other, which is really weird thinking about it. It was like a weirdly sexual environment. Conversations would often delve into like adult topics and they would share nudes of themselves and lewd pictures amongst themselves and sometimes in the chat that I was in. So I thought it would be funny to post a picture of myself in the chat just for like shock value. I thought it was really fucking funny. I was rolling laughing after I posted it.
In the next pair of screenshots, you can see him imply that he would be sending a nude image and is immediately informed and reminded of a 13-year-old being in the chat. Looking at the timestamps, you can see he disregards this and proceeds to send the image anyways.
As you can see in Albie's Twitlonger, I was made aware that of the person that was 13 years old in the group chat, or 14, I think, I can't remember. And I posted it anyway. So they were like, oh, bro, don't post it. Remember, there's a kid in this chat. And I was like, oh. And then I just posted the picture.
This final set of screenshots are just a collection of him still repeatedly sending nude images of himself to the same group chat over and over while knowing it's full of minors. By the way he responds, you can tell this is no accident.
So I posted that picture myself, and that was pretty much the end of it from there. I don't feel like there's much I can say about that. There's no excuse for it. It's fucking weird.
Okay, so this is weird as hell. But what does technicals have to do with all of this? Well, let's watch his response and find out.
This is in regards to the Twitlonger about my brother. Yes, I was in the group chat.
Excuse me, what? Technicals was in this group chat? Heck no!
I was in every group chat because I was the leader.
Oh, technicals, why?
I was leader of the crew that we made, which was this gigantic chat group of people in high school, adults, all this other shit. Yes, I was in the group chat. And I made it very apparent at the time that if anyone had a problem with someone in the group chat, to come to me and we would resolve it. At the specific period they're referencing in the Twitlonger, I remember this because me, along with everyone else, came to BJ and told him that was a really fucking stupid thing to do. Don't do something like that again, because we are in a group chat where, you know, it might be bad for other people. Told him it was stupid, never to do it again, and guess what? He didn't do it again.
Hey, it's John from the future here. This isn't even true. If we look back in the screenshots that were provided with the Twitlonger, we can see that the first time BJ did this was the 24th of December, 2016. And then he did it again on February the 18th, 2017. So he did do it again. That's just a complete and utter lie from Technicals.
Most people were just outraged because it was an outrageous thing to do, because that's how my brother is. He does fucking outrageous things and then doesn't think out the consequences of his actions. And obviously that came to bite him in the butt here because someone had receipts of him being outrageous. I did what I could at the time, told him it was a bad move. I didn't condone any of that shit.
That was quite the roller coaster, wasn't it? Okay. Let's break this down. So at no point did Technicals, as the leader of this chat, think that the not safe for work art being sent into the chat with minors was a bad idea. At no point did he think that the people drawing minors performing sex acts should be removed from the chat. At no point did he think that having his brother in the chat full of minors after he sent his dick was a bad idea. Look, I get it. He was younger back then and he may have not made the right call, but why is he still defending his actions to this day? When all this stuff came out, I assumed that Tech was also a minor at the time, since BJ said in his statement that he was the only adult in the chat.
I think I was the only person that was an adult at the time.
But it came out later that they're actually twins, so therefore, Tech was also an adult at the time.
Obviously,
Okay.
I was in the chat and we're twins, so do the
you
math.
were the other. Okay, well, I didn't know you're twins.
Maybe we just have different standards, but if this was me, I would have removed the people sending the not safe for work art and certainly would have removed BJ. Look, I understand that slip-ups could potentially happen. For example, you could forget how young some of the members are and send some not safe for work stuff on accident. But this was not an accident. It wasn't just like a few slip-ups. According to Tech himself, it was a running joke.
It's a joke. It was a running joke.
Of naked children? Is that what he was drawing? Like, what did he draw?
It's just so bad, dude. When Tech was called out more recently for this, I think the natural response would have been to take the fall and walk it back. But this guy just went completely off the rails and decided that it would be a good idea to post the depiction of the minor having sex with BJ. He just put this up publicly on his Twitter. I, unfortunately, did see the images. One of them is pretty crudely drawn, with the other one being far more detailed. Needless to say, I scrubbed my phone's cache and muted Tech on Twitter. I do not know why he decided it would be a good idea to post this. Only after getting called out and flamed by fans and fellow creators did he decide to delete the tweet. Couldn't have come sooner, mate. This whole situation is absolutely insane to me, but it does also put the ZeRo stuff into perspective. If Tech had to come out and wholeheartedly condemn ZeRo, he would have had to condemn his brother as well. And to a certain extent, he would even have to condemn himself.
I don't think guilty by association really counts in this because everyone realized it was shit, even BJ realized it was shit, and never did it again. If you want to tag me with that somehow, that's cool. I'm not gonna get canceled for it, and I won't really care past this response. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, so humor me here. What if we remove the actions of BJ for a moment, so we're not using guilty by association? Let's see exactly what Tech is guilty of himself by comparing his statement to his brother's account of what went down in the group chat.
In this group chat that had people from 13 years old to my age, 19 at the time, the conversations would often veer off into like adult topics like porn, sex, etc. Just thinking back on that now, that's like a red flag. I should have removed myself from the chat as soon as conversations started to veer off in that manner.
Yes, I was in the group chat. I was in every group chat because I was the leader.
Conversations would often delve into like adult topics, and they would share nudes of themselves and lewd pictures amongst themselves, and sometimes in the chat that I was in.
Technically
Technicals owned a group chat with his brother. Did you not?
Did you own the group chat, Technicals?
Yes, I was a leader of the group.
Okay, so you're just snipping at details that I'm getting
I
correct
thought the
here.
word owned was funny.
Hold on. So you're telling me that Technicals at the age of 19 was the leader of a group chat where minors were sending nudes and lewd images of themselves, and he did absolutely nothing to stop them? His brother seemed to notice that sexual stuff was talked about very often. So Tech, as the leader, had to have been aware of this as well, right? And yet, he doesn't address this anywhere in his response at all. I'm not trying to imply anything here, but this is incredibly strange. I could not imagine a situation where I or anyone I know would ever let this happen.
Back then, on Messenger, you couldn't delete messages, so the image was just stuck there.
So you're saying the nude and lewd images of the minors were cached on your device as well? This just keeps getting worse and worse. Why would you ever let your brother post this video? It's so incriminating. It's important to note that when you're the leader of a group chat like this, where adults and minors are mingling, the responsibility to keep conversations from veering off into inappropriate directions does lie on you. It's also your responsibility to make sure that the minors are aware of boundaries so that situations like the one we've discussed today can be avoided. It's a responsibility that Technicals should have taken more seriously. I would be okay with him if he came out and admitted that he could have taken more action at the time, but he's doubled down on his stance again and again and again. He was an adult, and letting this shit run wild was an absolute failure on his part. It's so incredibly irresponsible that I can't even begin to put it into words. His morals are clearly all over the place if he thought that this was okay. And just to remind you, this is the guy we're getting behind to tell us who should and who should not be let back into the community. Throughout Technical's time of creating investigations into Smash, I believe that he's done some genuinely great work. Some people have unreasonably had their reputations completely ruined and deserve a second chance. Technicals was able to vindicate these people, and with that, he achieved a certain level of credibility within the space. But some people are better left to the side. I know Tech likely feels a lot of attachment to these topics since it's affected him on a personal level in the past, but I believe that he's let his emotions get the best of him. And when you're working with delicate cases such as these, it's important not to let facts be dictated by your feelings. It pains me to say this, but I don't think I can take any future Technicals video at face value anymore. And I invite you to ask yourself the same thing. Is this the person we should be listening to when it comes to who should and who should not be allowed back into the community? I'm gonna let you decide. But needless to say, I'm pretty disappointed. Tech, I don't hate you, man, but you've deflected everyone that has tried to knock some sense into you these past few weeks. So maybe something like this is the only thing that'll get you to listen to some reason. I hope you'll change for the better. But everyone else, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.